God.
What are they paying him? Nothing.
Oh.
Like compared to what he's made in his career, like he's made.
It's certainly
like
not
he
a
could have
money
slept
thing.
through that alarm. But the fact that he showed up for that, I'm like, God,
Yeah, but he
good
loves
Canadian
embracing.
boy. I know.
He loves
I know,
embracing
I love
the
that.
fact that it's like he's
11
having a
a.m..
moment.
They're out till 5 a.m.
Yeah, he's having a moment, and this is why part of me does believe that he'll come to Toronto because it seems as though he's at some point of his career
Nothing
where
to lose now.
he's just really enjoying the spotlight. He always does the TNT interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they call on him to do something with him and Biz, he's there for it.
Which are one of the best player interview thing in any
Sure.
NHL thing ever.
And-
Them hammering each other.
But you look at even the Four Nations, who's the guy that's willing to take the phone and do some of the all-access content? It's Brad Marchand. Who's the guy that's soaking up the moment in Florida and showing up at Dairy Queen 11 a.m. despite being at 11 till God knows when?
Just
Do you think he
legend
slept?
moves. No,
Maybe a couple hours.
Yeah, not much.
But either way, and just his interactions with people just seem very genuine and funny, and I don't know, I like it.
I will
adore
say, I was driving in today thinking about the likelihood of Marchand to Toronto because, Kipper talked about it, and it does seem likely. I have it at, 51% chance? Like,
Sure, I think that's a fair
Yeah.
number.
somewhere in that ballpark. And I was trying to think of his influence on this room without Marner, who is, another personality of sorts. People like Mitch and all that on the team. And trying to imagine Marchand with Matthews and trying to draw Matthews out to a
Yeah.
comfort level. And if Matthews would take to that or not. Like if he would be receptive to someone, Matthews is 28, or going to be this next season. He's the captain of the team. Does he want some guy coming in having a good time being like, let's have some fun, pal?
I would hope so.
Or is he going to be like, all right, well, you haven't been here. This is our thing. I don't know. I don't know the
But our thing stinks.
Our thing does
and
stink, yeah.
And it has flamed out when Brad Marchand is at his best. So
course.
you have to. He'd have to trust
He
in the
might
process.
have the cachet to do it.
So
That's fair.
where I'm at with that element of it is they've had Tavares, and Matthews is not like as stiff as Tavares is, obviously. Like it's kind of hard to match that.
Pretty close though, media
But
wise.
he's more like snarky.
Yeah.
Right? He seems perturbed. And whatever, I know that the day-to-day of a media can be probably a bit of a grind. You're like any human being, right? There's some days where someone will ask me a question that's totally innocuous. If I didn't sleep well the night before, I'm having a bad day, and then I kind of bite their head off of it, and then 10 minutes later, you're like, I wish I kind of had that one back, So I don't view Matthews as like a problem with the media, but he's not Mr. Media.
No.
And at times, it feels really tense with that group. Nylander obviously doesn't like talking to the cameras. He seems like a loose guy that doesn't get bothered by...
Shit, Nylander doesn't seem like it. Oh, it doesn't
Does not
bother
seem
him.
like
No.
he's not bothered, but also not like Mr. Forward-facing who wants to jump in front of a microphone and like look at those exit interviews where he's talking about how he mentioned the whole thing of, well, we took them to 7 games, and I went, oh God, he doesn't really have it either.
No.
They have never had a guy like Marchand who would be this much of a bona fide dude in the league, a genuine Hall of Famer, a guy who's been a captain of a team, a guy who's played for Team Canada, who would get to come in that room, but then embrace the side that a lot of these guys seem to think is like a real detractor to the job, which is the forward-facing element of it. Instead of having to put Matthews out there all the time or Tavares in the tired stuff all the time, you get Marchand, who steps out in front of a microphone and is willing to say a few things and has done it in a major market in Boston, who has won and who has played on Team Canada and knows how to handle it when the right times are to say something that maybe calls your group out a bit, maybe the times where he takes a shot at the media and pushes back for the room and is actually able to say something that doesn't sound snarky, but kind of funny and forces you to reflect the question answer.
Just show those guys that the media's not out to get you.
Yeah, that this can be fun.
Yeah, like you can work
Yeah.
with them.
Yes.
This is not a adversarial
Yes.
thing.
I think that obviously the thing that's most important for them is if you're buying Brad Marchand, what are you getting from him as a hockey player, right? Because is he going to be the same guy playing with Matthews as he was on a third line with the Florida Panthers that's not getting the hardest matchups? No, probably not. In fact, when I saw him at Four Nations, one of my biggest takeaways was, he's not there the next year for Olympics. He seems to be one of the odd men out in terms of guy who can hang here.
That was, those games, those USA Canada games were like maybe the 2 fastest hockey games. Like
Sure.
that's you're never gonna have
Those teams
that.
didn't have third or fourth lines
No,
to
no,
play
there's
against.
there's no easy matchups
No.
in any of those games.
But I would say that
he looked slow in that tournament.
You're
100%.
fooling yourself.
Context is he can't play first liner.
You're fooling yourself if you're thinking that Brad Marchand is going to come to Toronto and have the same on-ice impact as he did with the Florida Panthers. And especially once you start to age that over a potentially 4-year deal, which seems to be the way that you're going to get him here.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like there's always this conversation of, are you overpaying for intangibles, right? Like we did this with Zach Hyman, where you're going, ooh, these contracts, they tend to age bad when it's the guy that doesn't. But contextually with this team, to me, Marchand makes sense as an overpay. Like you're really drastically, you've come out as an organization and said that you need to change the DNA of this group. I think that they're trying to do that now at the negotiating table where they're saying, we're taking a harder line position with Tavares. We're taking a harder line position with Matthew Nyes. Whatever part they're playing in the Marner stuff, but he's walking away. There's going to be a revamp in terms of the way they're doing things, at least optically today.
Yeah.
But if you want to tell me about a guy who could come in here and actually change Easton Cowan's career and change Matthew Nyes' career and change the outlook of what the next couple of seasons look like in terms of younger players coming through the organization, their approach with the media, their approach with the game, the joy in which they play with, the looseness that a guy like Marchand brings. I think contextually, if you told me, hey, Brad Marchand 4-year deal at $8 million for, let's say, the Carolina Hurricanes, I would go, I don't think that makes sense.
No.
But for the Maple Leafs in this exact spot that they're in, I kind of feel as though it's a bit of a perfect marriage, and that's why I'd be willing to overpay it. I've made this comparison before, but I view it very much like the Blue Jays when they signed Russell Martin, that you're buying this 4-year deal for the first 2 years of it. That anything you get after the next 2 years, it's like he's basically becoming a player manager, and you just have to be able to eat that and hope that as the cap rises and then hopefully your negotiations get better, that you can still find ways to win.
Yeah, and that you're able to flex your financial might for the first time in a really long time, with other teams not necessarily being able to, spend to the cap when it starts going up and up. But the window thing makes a ton of sense too. To add on to your point, I mean, you have the next, is it 3 years left with Matthews? Was that the first year of his contract where he was the highest paid guy this last year?
Yeah.
So you have 3 more years here of Matthews under contract. Like, if you're matching up these next 3 years or 4 years, however many it is, with Brad Marchand, it's like, these are the only 3 years that really matter. Like, look at how old Tanev is. Look at, like, some of the older guys in their team. It's like, he's not that much older than these guys. He's a perfect match for all those things that you've talked about. And unlike the other veterans that they've brought in here, it's actually one. It's like, it's not Marleau. It's not Thornton. It's not
It's
Simmons.
going the complete opposite
It's
direction.
not Spezza. It's not all these guys that are like, Spezza, we like to say we men in black
Giordano.
sticked it because of Giordano. All these guys they've brought in never won anything. And bringing in Marchand with that cachet and all that stuff just makes a ton of sense. So I'm really, really hoping to hoping that it happens. I really am.
Yeah, and you kind of hope that the tail end of it works out like Tavares' end of it, where we all said the back end of that was going to be bad, and then I was like, okay,
Fine.
they still squeeze
38,
some juice out of that. So,
No.
on that topic, we find there's a report, I think Pierre LeBrun this weekend wrote essentially that the Leafs are playing a bit of hardball with Tavares.
I had Myrtle on my show today. He said